for our work here this morning, which is our last Sunday to explore the monthly topic of getting real. This entire month we've said we were going to get real, and we have gotten real about various topics, various aspects of our lives. Today is kind of the big picture. We're simply getting real about life. I want to be very clear when I say getting real about life, that life has two definitions. One of them is with a lowercase l, and the other one is with an uppercase L. And when I said in first service that I hadn't figured out a way to distinguish, since you can't read, when I'm saying life, if I'm lowercase or uppercase L, how am I going to distinguish that as I talk? And John Halliburton, who was our spiritual life coach who did our opening prayer in first service, said, well, he just was sitting there and he just, well, that's life, lowercase L, that's uppercase L. Pretty simple. So this does not stand for loser this morning. If I do this, it's not loser. This stands for uppercase life, and this is lowercase life. What do I mean by uppercase and lowercase life? Lowercase L life is simply this human life, this human experience that we have with its variety of opportunities in it. Opportunities that, kind of mountaintop, exciting, fabulous things that occur in this life, and then maybe valley things that occur that are sad or not fun, or the challenges. This life that brings with it such a vast variety of opportunities, right, to deepen and grow and expand. But it's a little bit, I don't know about you, but sometimes life to me feels a tiny bit like a roller coaster. Anybody have that? Just a little bit like a roller coaster. So that's what I mean by life, lowercase l. But life, capital L, doesn't do this at all. Life, capital L, is constant. It is consistent. In fact, it is eternal. And Ernest Holmes, in our Science of Mind textbook, in the glossary of this book in the back, describes life in about a page and a half. But I'm not going to read the whole page and a half, just the beginning of how he describes life. He said it is the anointing, I like anointing, but actually he didn't say that. He said the animating principle of beingness, that inner something that makes everything live, that which runs through all, which enables anything to be what it is. Holmes also wrote in a book now entitled The Art of Living, formerly called something else. Anybody know what it used to be called when it was originally published? Not The Art of Living. Really? Thank you. I heard it coming from a couple different places. Yes. I cheated. I saw it online. Hey, whatever gives you the answer works for me. It's not cheating. Works for me. So yeah, it was originally published as this thing called Life. He published this thing called You and this thing called Life. And then sometime not too long ago, 10 years maybe or so ago, the Science of Mind publications decided to change it to The Art of Living. Nonetheless, that doesn't really matter. What he said about life is this: there is a universal wholeness seeking expression through everything. That's life. We are calling it simply life. Life is infinite energy coupled with limitless creative imagination. It is the invisible essence and substance of every visible form. Its nature is goodness, truth, wisdom, and beauty, as well as energy and imagination. So that is life, capital L. And today we're going to explore the interplay between life and life. Sound good? Yay, good. So I want to begin this conversation today by having a little story time. So I have my story time book out. I want to read to you I called it a parable in first service, but I think it's more like a metaphor. This is a metaphor. And I invite you, as you hear me read this, just to touch in, like, how is that you? Where do you fit in here? Where do you see yourself in this? And so the metaphor is called the story of the river. Once upon a time, there was a joyful stream of water, dancing and singing as she ran down from the top of the mountain. She soon became a young and beautiful river, finding her way among the hills, the forests, and the meadows. As she continued to wend her way gracefully among the hills and meadows, her greatest desire was to go to the ocean. Then one day she noticed clouds. Clouds of all shapes and colors and forms. She became mesmerized, and from that moment on, she did nothing but chase after clouds. She wanted to possess a cloud, to have one for herself. But clouds float and travel in the sky, and they are always changing their form. Because of the impermanent nature of the clouds, the river suffered very much. Her life became about chasing after clouds, one after another. But because she never could catch one, despair, anger, and resentment entered her heart. Then one day a strong wind came along and blew away the clouds from the sky. The sky became completely empty, and so did the river. She thought that life was not worth living, for there were no longer any clouds to chase after. She wanted to just die. But how can a river cease to be? That night, the river had an opportunity to go back to herself for the first time. She had been running for so long after something outside of herself that she had never really seen herself. That night, she heard her own crying for the first time, the sounds of the water crashing against the banks of the river. Because she was able to hear her own voice, she discovered something quite important. She realized that what she had been looking for was already in herself. A voice from within whispered to her that clouds are nothing but water. Clouds are born from water and will return to water. She found out that she is water herself. The next morning, when the sun was in the sky, she discovered something beautiful. She saw the blue sky for the first time. She had never noticed the sky before. She had only been interested in the clouds, and she had missed seeing the sky, the home of the clouds. Clouds are impermanent, but the sky is stable. In that moment, she realized that the immense sky had been within her heart since the very beginning. This great insight brought peace and happiness. She saw the vast, wonderful blue sky, and she knew that her peace and stability would never be lost again. That afternoon, the clouds returned. But this time, she did not want to possess any of them. She could see the beauty of each cloud, and she was able to welcome all of them in. When a cloud came by, she would greet it with loving kindness. When that cloud wanted to go away, she would wave to it happily and with loving kindness. She realized that all clouds are her. She didn't have to choose between clouds and herself. Peace and harmony existed between her and the clouds. That evening, something wonderful happened. When she opened her heart completely to the evening sky, she received the gift of the full moon, beautiful, round, like a jewel within herself. She had never imagined that she could receive such an incredibly beautiful gift. As she received the gift of that beautiful moon within her heart, in that moment, the water, the clouds, and the moon took one another's hands and walked slowly, slowly, slowly to the ocean. You can say, that's good. Isn't that sweet? That's such a beautiful story, metaphor, parable. What does it have to do with getting real about life and life? Well, I find three, actually there are many things in that we could talk about, but there are three ideas that popped out for me that I want to share with you this morning that have everything to do with getting real about life and life. The first one speaks to the beauty and purity and innocence of that river when she began. The story started, the river began by being a joyful stream of water, a spring always dancing and singing as she ran down from the top of the mountain. As she grew, she beautifully wended her way gracefully among the hills and the meadows, and her greatest desire was to go to the ocean. For me, that speaks about when we enter this life, lowercase l, we enter it filled with life and an absolute union and connection with life, capital L. We are pure when we enter this life experience. We are a pure, if we will, window for the Spirit of God, the Spirit of life to shine through us. We are absolute innocence and purity in form. We teach in Science of Mind that we believe in the term original innocence. I was raised in a belief that taught me that I was born in original sin. We don't believe that. We don't believe that at all. And I learned in my old faith tradition that there's nothing I could do actually to relieve me of personally that I could do to relieve me of that original sin in which I was born. But we teach in Science of Mind a different perspective. And we say we're not born in original sin, we're born in original innocence. Because life itself has birthed us, and we are an expression of that. And I believe, unfortunately or fortunately, because it's fortunate because it's just the way it is and that's the journey that we're on. But I think we get amnesia the moment we arrive and we start forgetting who we are. In fact, there's a precious little story. I actually heard a minister once tell it as a true story that had happened to his congregant, and I don't know if that's true or not, but it didn't happen to me, but I heard this story that there was a little family that had a 4-year-old son, and then they had a new baby, another baby boy. And the 4-year-old was so excited to have a little baby brother and to bring this little baby brother home, and he kept saying to his parents, "Can I be in the room alone with my baby brother?" And the parents were like, "Oh, no, we're not going to put a 4-year-old in the room with an infant and with a newborn. No." But he was insistent. This little 4-year-old was absolutely insistent that he be in there with his baby brother. So finally his parents thought, well, he really needs to do this. How can we make this work? And they came up with a creative solution, was to just turn on the baby monitor, have it on, have it right by the crib, and that they would have it with them, and they would be right by the door. So they would be listening. So if anything happened, they could be in a half a second. So they let him go in, and they're right outside the door, listening on the baby monitor. And they can hear the little 4-year-old walking close to the crib, and they can hear him, like the crib rattle, so they know he's probably touching the slats, and he's really close. And they know he's really close to the baby because he's just whispering. And he says to his little baby brother, "Baby brother, could you please tell me about God? I'm starting to forget." I'm starting to forget. I think we all do that. We come in as this beautiful expression, innocent, pure expression of life, just like the river. She was gorgeous, she was young, she was free, she danced, she played. We're that. Remember, you are that. And the only desire she had really at that time was to go to the river, which is, of course, to experience deeply her connection with life. But then life, that's lowercase l, happens. Life happens. And many things happen in life to throw us off that beautiful path. But one of them, I'm only going to speak to one of them because it relates to our story, it relates to our parable this morning, is that clouds occur in our life, meaning that thing that we're chasing that we can't quite get. Anybody have that experience? Anybody have a cloud in their life? It is that thing, that thing that we want that's out there, and we just are chasing after it, wanting it, and it's not there, and then we can get like that river she got angry and resentful and hurt that she couldn't have the clouds. We get like that. That takes away our joy and our innocence. That takes us into a place of not being very happy. And the thing that we know spiritually and from our beautiful Science of Mind teachings is that energetically, when we go chasing after whatever our cloud is, whatever our desire, intention is, when we go chasing after it, and unhappy that we don't have it, then we're bringing to this the energy of what? I don't have it. And when I bring to this life, lowercase l, the energy of I don't have it and I desperately want it, what happens? I push it away. I push it away. In the Buddhist teachings, it says that we suffer because we have desire. That's part of Buddhist teachings. We suffer because we have desire. In our New Thought or Science of Mind teachings, we say that desire is planted in our hearts by the divine. That life planted desire, and our desires in us, our hopes, our dreams, our aspirations. I love the quote that you used in your prayer this morning. Ernest Holmes says, let us know that those things are come from on high, and then go out and manifest them in our lives. So, wow, that seems a little bit contradictory. Is it our desires are cause of suffering, or are we meant to bring forth those desires? Well, my answer might come from a bit of the fact that I'm a Libra and I can see like both sides of things, I'm that balance. But I say it's both. I say it's both. When we are chasing after a desire with the I can't have it attitude, not only are we pushing it away, but we suffer. We absolutely suffer. But when we can love into our lives that which we desire, there is no suffering, and it's really quite easy and effortless. I want to give you an example, a personal example that happened just this Friday for me. And I was so grateful to have this example show up so that I could share with you today. And this example is about how when we simply love, we can bring into our experience in the most beautiful, unexpected, and we might even call remarkable ways. And this is an example that, it's not a life-shattering example. I get it. But it's so perfect for when we love, we bring it in. So here it is. I have to give you a tiny bit of background first. Many of you who know me, even slightly, know that I have a particular affinity and love for a certain rock and roll singer. Right? You know that. That would be Elvis Presley. I am a gigantically huge Elvis Presley fan. But I am not one-dimensional in my taste in music. I have other groups and individuals that I also very much enjoy and was deeply moved and still am by their music. Not to mention our New Thought people like Gary Lynn Floyd. Yes. But I mean now, like the commercial artists. And one of them was and is Cat Stevens. I love Cat Stevens and his music. Y'all know who he is? Oh, yeah, all right. So a little tiny piece about Cat Stevens, and then I'll tell you my story, is that in 1978, Cat Stevens left the music industry. He left the music industry because he actually got tuberculosis and was in the hospital for a long time recovering from tuberculosis. And in that time, he was reading and, doing other things than being a rock and roll star. He was reading spiritual things, and he started to look at life might be a little bit more than sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And he really started exploring, who am I, and where do I fit in, and what's my spiritual source? And so he was exploring. And then he got well enough, and he recovered, and thank you for modern medicine that we can now recover from that disease, and he did. And he went swimming in the ocean. Not a good idea. He wasn't strong enough to do that. Didn't realize it. He was swimming in the ocean, and he was out far enough, and the current against him was strong enough. He realized he was not going to make it back. He did not have the stamina and the energy to get back. And he did what many of us do, but he followed up on his. He made that, oh God, if you will only save me, I will do this. Yeah, any of us ever make that prayer? Oh God, if you will only, I will. And then how many of us actually followed up on the I will? Yeah, well, not that many of us. But he did. His prayer was, oh God, if you save me here, I will devote my life to you. That is what he said. And with that, a wave, life, whoosh, honestly pushed him into shore far enough that he was able to swim in. Shortly after that experience, his brother gave him a copy of the Quran, which is the sacred text of Islam. And that is what sang to him, because he said, I have heard about making music for art, making music for money, making music for pleasure, but I have never heard the idea, which he read in the Quran, which was to make music for God. And with that moment in 1978, he hung up his guitar. He actually sold all of his guitars, and he dedicated his life to learning first this teaching that just filled his heart with joy, and then to teach it and be a philanthropist. Because he had about $1.5 million coming in every single year from the royalties from all of his music. So, that's a little history. On Friday morning, I walked into my nail salon, Nails by Michele, by the way, who's our Bountiful Bees sponsor, and a great nail tech, I'll just say. And in her salon, Cat Stevens was playing on the radio. And I walked in, oh, Michele, I love Cat Stevens' music. Oh, and this just is making me so happy to hear this song and hear Wild World. His song is my favorite song. My second favorite song is Peace Train, but all of them I love. Oh, I just kind of basked in how much I love his music. I didn't go to I can't ever hear him sing again. He doesn't tour anymore. I'm so sad about that. Boo-hoo, I can't have that. There was none of that, consciously or unconsciously, none of that. I was just in the moment of loving his music. This is the power of loving something into our lives. That night, before I left here, I decided to jump onto Redbox, because Lonnie and I we don't do Netflix, so we go to Redbox. And I was looking for movies, and there's this movie with Bill Murray I'd never heard of. It's called Rock the Casbah. Never heard of it. Anybody seen it? Oh, good. No, okay, only one of you. All right. Well, it's called Rock the Casbah, and he is in this movie. Bill Murray is a pretty much washed up rock and roll manager. He winds up in Afghanistan and finds a young woman who has this voice of an angel, and he thinks she needs to be a star. And of course, women aren't supposed to sing, but actually nobody is supposed to sing except to God in the Muslim faith or the Islamic faith. And so this was a big controversy. Guess whose music plays in part of the soundtrack? I'm saying Cat Stevens' music. When she finally does sing, she performs on a talent show, she sings 2 songs. My 2 favorite songs, Wild World and Peace Train. Not a movie version of them, by the way, like a short, condensed version. No. The entire song with Peace Train having a choir behind her singing that song. It was such a gorgeous moment. I'm like, that's how it works. This is how we love into our experience that which we desire. We don't have to go chase it. When we do chase it, in fact, we chase it away. But when we just love it, we will love it into our experience. And our little river loved those clouds back into her experience. When she quit chasing them, she started loving the sky. She started loving who she is. She started remembering that she and the clouds were actually one. They came back in a new way. And she didn't have to possess them anymore. She could just love them and enjoy them. And so the postscript to this is that I decided to do a little research on Cat to, give you a little more facts. I found this out. After 9/11, his son said to him, we need Muslim role models who are good people. You need to start singing again, Dad. And he did. I didn't know this. He tours now. I know. Well, you set the intention. He comes to Phoenix. He's made more albums. I didn't know that. I'm going to go out and buy them all. I am so excited to know that. I did not know that. I love Cat Stevens right back into my life. And that, my friends, is how it works. He changed his name, by the way, in case you're looking for him. His name isn't Cat Stevens anymore. It's Yusuf, U-S-U-F. Yusuf Islam, although for his stage name, he's dropped the Islam. He says Yusuf. Actually, I went on his website. It's Yusuf/Cat Stevens. So you can find him if you're interested in finding out about him. The third idea. So the first idea is we're pure innocent like that river. The second idea is don't chase those clouds. The third idea really takes us back full circle to this idea of returning to source. The last line of our little metaphor was the moon, the water, and the sky walked hand in hand to the river. To the ocean. Thank you. To the ocean. The ocean which is the divine. The ocean which is life itself. life itself. It is our job to surrender to the ocean, to surrender to life, to surrender what we want and going after it, and know that this source of life has our back all the time. Ernest Holmes writes in The Art of Living, you do not have to beseech life to be good or to bring out the good in your life. Life is like the sun. It shines on everything. So you get out of the shadows, crawl out of your basement, open your windows of your mind and the doors of your soul. Lift up your thought and let life be to you whatever you wish it to be. But that requires a level of surrender. Sometimes we don't like that word surrender. We think it's like white flag and I'm giving up. It's not giving up. It's not waving a white flag. It is simply saying, and I didn't make this quote up. I wish I did. It's brilliant. That spiritual surrender, the spiritual practice of surrender is having a belief that as deeply as you are willing to go, Spirit is willing to fill you up. That's surrender. And that's what our little river did at the end. She surrendered and walked happily to the ocean. So I invite us this morning to remember the parable of the river and know that it is your life. It is a parable of your life. And that, as our founder Ernest Holmes said, our highest satisfaction in life comes from a sense of conscious union with this invisible life. So let's close our eyes right now and spend a few moments in conscious union with this invisible life. This life that is God. This life that is the force behind everything. This life that animates all that was, is, and will be. Let us commune and become in conscious union this morning with this life. As Ernest Holmes says, let us open our minds and open our souls to life itself. Let us open our hearts, our minds, and our souls this morning to that essence of life itself that is love. Knowing that we are that and that is us. One with, one as, one of God we are. Each of us. Perfect in our expression. Innocent and pure. And this moment right now, we just get back to that. So if you need to, in your mind's eye, simply roll back the film of your life. And it doesn't matter how many years there are between that moment that you entered this life and today. Just roll it on back to that innocent, pure creation of life that you are. And then bring that innocence and purity forward into this room right now. And if anyone here today is experiencing a challenge in a valley of life as opposed to a peak, in a sadness in life as opposed to a joy, in a concern of life as opposed to feeling on top of the world, if you are in that place this morning, I invite you to just bring that concern, that challenge, that sorrow, bring it to the altar of life. And just place it there. And surrender it over to infinite divine love. And just know that as deeply as you are willing to surrender it, Spirit is willing to fill you up with grace, with love, with happiness, with purpose, with satisfaction. Spirit is there ready. And if you came in here this morning feeling on top of the world, life is going great, and you're ready now for that next iteration, that next expansive move for you, bring that as well. Surrender that as well onto the altar of life. Knowing that Source knows exactly how to bring that next expression out for you. You don't have to chase anything. Life is willing to deliver. So for wherever we are this morning, I know that today, as we have moved into this space, and as we have gotten real with life, our life, and life, the life that is God, the life that is me, as we have done this, we have been blessed. So I am grateful, deeply, deeply grateful. And simply now release this prayer, surrender this prayer to God's perfect law, and let it be done. And together let us say, and so it is.